Hello, my name is Brandon Chatfield. Welcome to Onward True, Principles of a Powerful Mind, where we discuss science-backed ideas to improve your brain, your mind, and your life. Welcome to Onward True Podcast. My name is Brandon Chatfield. I am an adjunct professor here at NAU in Arizona, and I'm also a psychotherapist. This podcast is separate from my role at NAU and in my practice as a psychotherapist. I am trying to help educate people on various mental health and physical health topics as a free resource to the public. This is not meant to replace professional diagnosis or suggest any type of treatment. For your mental and physical health needs, it is best for you to consult a mental health professional or a physician. It is very important for the listener to take responsibility for their own health and wellness. Thank you. The last great frontier in the world, and maybe the biggest one, lies within us. Our nervous system is responsible for everything we do, know, and experience. Its complexity is staggering, making the study and understanding of it one of the most challenging tasks we've ever faced. Curiosity is a universal human trait. We always want to understand why things happen. In ancient times, people believed that natural phenomena were caused by spirits. They thought all moving things, animals, the wind, tides, the sun, moon, and stars, had spirits that made them move. For example, they believed that stones fell because their spirits wanted to return to Mother Earth. As people became more sophisticated and learned more about nature, they abandoned this physical explanations. However, they continued to use the idea of spirits to explain human behavior. From the earliest times, people have believed they possess something intangible, a mind, a soul, a spirit. This belief comes from our awareness of our own existence. When we think or act, it feels like something inside us is making those decisions. But what exactly is the human mind? We have physical bodies with muscles that move and sensory organs like eyes and ears that perceive the world. Our nervous system plays a crucial role receiving information from these sensory organs and controlling our movements. Understanding this system is a monumental task, but it is key to understanding ourselves. So, what role does the mind play? Does it actually control the nervous system? Is it part of the nervous system? Is it physical and tangible like the rest of our body, or is it some elusive spirit that stays hidden? This puzzle is known as the mind-body question, a topic philosophers have debated for centuries. More recently, scientists have started exploring it from a scientific perspective. There are two main approaches to this question of the mind-body problem: dualism and monism. Dualism suggests that mind and body are separate. Body is made up of ordinary matter, but the mind is not. Monism, on the other hand, believes that everything in the universe, including the mind, consists of matter and energy, and that the mind is a phenomenon produced by the workings of the nervous system, which is made of matter and energy, electrical chemical impulses. Speculating about the nature of the mind can only take us so far. If it were possible for the mind-body question to be solved just by thinking about it, philosophers would have resolved it long ago. Instead, psychologists, physiologists, neuropsychologists, neurologists, neuroscientists, they've adopted an empirical, practical, and monistic approach to studying the human mind and human nature. Most believe that understanding the working of the human body, particularly the nervous system, will eventually solve the mind-body problem. This understanding will help explain how we perceive, think, remember, and act, and even shed light on who we are in our self-awareness, in our consciousness. Of course, we still have a long way to go in understanding the nervous system, so time will tell if this belief is justified. In any case, there's no way to study non-physical phenomenon in a laboratory. We can only detect and study manifestations of the physical world, matter and energy. Scientists have made significant discoveries about the physiology behind behavior, including perception, motivation, emotions, memory, and movement control. However, before we dive into these topics on this podcast, I want to show you that the scientific approach to understanding human consciousness is possible despite its complexity. Consciousness can refer to various concepts, such as simple wakefulness. For instance, a person might say that there is conscious animals, like the animal might be conscious, to indicate that it's awake and functioning, and not anesthetized. Here, though, when I use the word consciousness, I mean our awareness of and the ability to communicate thoughts, perceptions, memories, and feelings. We know that consciousness can be altered by change in the brain structure or chemistry, suggesting that consciousness is a physiological function, much like behavior. We could even speculate about the origins of self-awareness. Consciousness and communication are closely linked. Our complex social structures and significant learning capacity benefits greatly from communication. This ability to express intention and make requests fostering communication allows us to establish customs and laws. Perhaps this evolved ability to communicate is what led to the phenomenon of consciousness in the first place. In other words, our capacity to send and receive messages with others might enable us to send and receive messages on our own, leading to that sense of self-awareness and the ability to think. The split brain phenomenon offers a fascinating insight into the workings of the human brain, particularly highlighting the distinct and complementary roles of the two cerebral hemispheres. At the heart of this phenomenon is the corpus callosum, a thick band of nerve fibers that facilitate communication between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. Understanding the split brain phenomenon requires delving into the anatomy of the corpus callosum, the functional specialization of the cerebral hemispheres, and the profound effects observed in patients who have undergone a surgical procedure that severs this connection, called a corpus callosomy. The corpus callosum is the largest white matter structure in the brain, consisting of approximately 200 million axonal projections. It serves as the principal conduit for information exchange between the left and right hemispheres, ensuring that sensory, motor, and cognitive information is integrated across both sides. The corpus callosum is divided into four main regions: the rostrum, the genu, body, and splenium, each connecting different parts of the cerebral cortex. This connectivity is crucial for coordinating functions that require bilateral integration, such as vision, motor control, and complex cognitive tasks. The human brain is characterized by hemispheric specialization, where each hemisphere is specialized for certain functions. This lateralization of brain function is evident in various cognitive and perceptual processes. Often referred to as the dominant or the analytical hemisphere, the left hemisphere is typically associated with language processing, including speech production and comprehension, Broca's area and Wernicke's area, respectively, we're going to delve deep into that in this podcast. It also excels in tasks involving logic, analytical thinking, and sequential processing. For most right-handed individuals and significant number of left-handers, the left hemisphere controls these language functions. The right hemisphere, on the other hand, is associated with spatial ability, face recognition, visual imagery, and music perception. It plays a crucial role in processing the emotional content of language and is involved in understanding context and nonverbal cues. The right hemisphere is often described as the more holistic, integrative, and synthesizing information to provide a big picture perspective. Now, referred to earlier, the term split brain. It's a condition resulting from a surgical procedure known as the corpus callosomy, which involves severing the corpus callosum. This procedure was historically performed to treat severe cases of epilepsy, where electrical storms in the brain would cause debilitating seizures. By severing the corpus callosum and the spread of electrical activity which causes epilepsy between the hemispheres can be contained, significantly reducing the frequency and severity of the seizures. Patients who have undergone this surgery exhibit unique and often astonishing behaviors, providing a lot of insight into hemispheric specialization and the interhemispheric communication. The split brain phenomenon became widely known through the pioneering work of neuropsychologists Roger Sperry and Michael Gazzaniga in the 1960s. In split brain patients, the disconnect of the hemispheres leads to a range of intriguing effects. For example, when an object is placed in the left visual field, processed by the right hemisphere, the patient might be unable to name it because the right hemisphere, which perceives the object, cannot communicate with the left hemisphere, where the language centers are located. However, the patient can often select the correct object with their left hand, controlled by the right hemisphere, indicating nonverbal recognition. Numerous experiments have been conducted to explore the split brain phenomenon, revealing the complexities of interhemispheric communication. In classic experiments, the split brain patient is shown different images to each hemisphere simultaneously. If the word key is presented in the left visual field, right hemisphere, and ring to the right visual field, left hemisphere, the patient might verbally report seeing the word ring, left hemisphere, but can select the key with their left hand, which is right hemisphere. This demonstrates the independent processing capabilities of each hemisphere and the necessity for the corpus callosum for the integration of perception and response. They work in conjunction with each other. Another experiment involves placing an object in one hand of a split brain patient without visual input. The right hand, which is controlled by the left hemisphere, might identify the object verbally, but if placed in the left hand, the right hemisphere, the patient may struggle to name it, yet correctly identify it through drawing or selection, showing the nonverbal proficiency of the right hemisphere. The split brain phenomenon has a profound implication for our understanding of consciousness and personal identity. The apparent independence of the hemispheres in the split brain patient raises questions about the unity of consciousness. Some split brain patients report feeling as though they have two minds operating within one body, each with its own perceptions, thoughts, and intentions. Despite the split brain condition, most patients function relatively normally in everyday life due to compensatory mechanisms and the brain's remarkable plasticity. This suggests that the unity of consciousness is a product of seamless interhemispheric communication, which becomes evident only when disrupted. The phenomenon also touches on the philosophical debate about the nature of self and consciousness. If each hemisphere can operate independently to some extent, what does this say about the nature of the self? Are there multiple centers of consciousness within a split brain individual? Or does one hemisphere dominate the sense of self? These questions continue to intrigue neuroscientists and philosophers around the world. Advances in neuroimaging and brain stimulation technologies have provided deeper insight into the split brain phenomenon and hemispheric specialization. Functional MRI, fMRI for short, and other imaging techniques allow researchers to observe the dynamic interaction between hemispheres in real time, even in individuals with an intact corpus callosum. Modern research also explores how the brain adapts to the loss of the corpus callosum. Neuroplasticity enables other neural pathways to compensate for the loss of interhemispheric communication, explaining why some split brain patients can develop alternative strategies for integrated functions. Understanding the split brain phenomenon has clinical implications beyond its epilepsy treatments. It informs rehabilitation strategies for patients with brain injury and strokes, guiding interventions that harness the intact hemisphere's capabilities to support and recover. The split brain phenomenon provides a unique window into the dual nature of the human brain and the critical role the corpus callosum in unifying cognitive processes. By studying individuals who have undergone corpus callosotomy, researchers have gained invaluable insight into hemispheric specialization, mechanism of consciousness, and the intricate balance between independence and integration within the brain. This knowledge not only advances our understanding of the brain and its functions, but also informs clinical practice and philosophical inquiries into the nature of self and consciousness. Unilateral neglect, also known as hemispatial neglect, is a neurological condition typically resulting from damage to one of the brain's hemispheres, most commonly the right parietal lobe. This condition leads to a profound lack of awareness of one's side of space, usually the left, meaning individuals ignore objects, sounds, and even parts of their own body on that side. The right hemisphere of the brain is predominantly responsible for spatial attention and the awareness of both the left and right sides of the environment. When the right parietal lobe is damaged, patients often exhibit left-sided neglect because the right hemisphere's ability to attend to the left side is impaired. This can manifest in various different ways, such as only eating food on the right side of your plate, grooming only the right side of your body, failing to acknowledge people standing to the left. In contrast, the left hemisphere is generally more specialized for language and analytical tasks and less for spatial attention. Damage to the left hemisphere can sometimes result in the right side neglect, but this is much less common and typically less severe than the left side neglect resulting from right hemispheric damage. This asymmetry suggests that the right hemisphere has a broader role in spatial awareness, compensating for both sides of space, while the left hemisphere primarily focuses on the right side. Unilateral neglect highlights the specialized functions of the two hemispheres and the importance of the right hemisphere in spatial processing and awareness. Understanding this condition has profound implications on the rehabilitation strategies used in clinics and in hospitals. Therapies often focus on retraining the brain to attend to the neglected side using techniques such as visual scanning training, sensory stimulation, and prism adaptation therapy. Unilateral neglect underscores the critical role of the right hemisphere in maintaining spatial awareness and the delicate balance of hemispheric function necessary for cohesive perception of the world. The physiology of behavior examines the biological processes underlying our actions, thoughts, and emotion. This field integrates insights from neuroscience, psychology, and biology to understand how the brain and nervous system influence behavior. Wilhelm Wundt, often considered the father of experimental psychology, made a significant contribution to the field with his pioneering work in the late 19th century. In 1874, Wundt published Principles of Physiological Psychology, a seminal text that laid the foundation for modern psychological study by emphasizing the connection between physiology and the psychological processes. Wundt's work proposed that psychological phenomenon could be studied through systematic observation and experimentation, bridging the gap between physiology and psychology. He argued that mental processes such as perception, thought, and emotion could be understood in terms of their underlying physiological mechanisms. The primary goal of research in understanding the biology of behavior is to elucidate the intricate mechanisms by which biological processes influence action, thought, and emotion. This interdisciplinary field spans neuroscience, psychology, genetics, and physiology, aiming to provide a comprehensive picture of how our brain and body interact to produce behavior. One of the central aims is to identify and understand the neural mechanisms that underpin behavior. This involves studying the brain's structure and function, the role of different brain regions, and how neurons and neural circuits communicate. Techniques such as functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, and electroencephalography, EEG, and optogenetics allow researchers to observe and manipulate brain activity, helping to link specific neural processes to behaviors. Research also focuses on the genetic and molecular foundations of behavior. By examining how genes and their expression influence brain development and function, scientists can uncover the hereditary components of behavior. This includes identifying genes associated with specific behaviors or psychological disorders that we can understand how the genetic variations contribute to individual differences in behaviors from person to person. Hormones and neurotransmitters play a crucial role in regulating behavior. Research in this area aims to understand how these chemicals influence mood, cognition, and action. For example, studying the effects of dopamine and serotonin helps elucidate their role in reward, motivation, and mood regulation. Hormonal studies, such as those involved in cortisol and its impact on stress response, further reveal the biological underpinnings of behavior. The interaction between biology and environment is another key research focus, investigating how environmental factors such as early life experiences, stress, and social interaction influence biological processes that explain the dynamic nature of behavior. This includes studying neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to change and adapt in response to experience. Ultimately, the research in the biology of behavior aims to translate findings into clinical applications. Ultimately, what is all this research allowing us to do practically? Understanding the biological basis of behavior can lead to better diagnosis, prevention, and treatment of psychological and neurological disorders. By identifying biomarkers and developing targeted therapies, researchers hope to improve mental health outcomes and enhance the quality of life for individuals with behavioral and psychological conditions. The goal of research in the biology of behavior is to unravel the complex interplay between biological processes and behavior, providing insight that bridges the gap between brain, body, and mind. The study of the biology of behavior has a rich history, tracing its roots back to the ancient Greek philosophers and advancing through significant contributions from various scientists over the centuries. The historical journey highlights the evolution of understanding how biological processes influence behavior, encompassing philosophy, anatomy, physiology, and psychology. So let's talk about the Greeks. The exploration of biology of behavior began with the ancient Greek philosophers. Hippocrates, who lived between the years 460 and 730 BCE, was among the first to suggest that the brain is the seat of intelligence and behavior, contrary to the then prevailing belief that the heart was the center of thought and emotion. His observation laid the groundwork for considering the brain's role in behavior. Aristotle, who lived in Greece between the years 384 to 322 BCE, a student of Plato, differed from Hippocrates in maintaining that the heart was the center of sensation and thought, viewing the brain as a cooling mechanism for the blood. Despite his incorrect conclusions, Aristotle's extensive observations and writing on behavior and the human body influenced future generations. Now, the idea that we talked about before between dualism and monism is interesting because that's where the modern ideas of neurology and neuroscience really begin, with a man named René Descartes, who lived between 1596 and 1650, the Common Era. He was a French philosopher and mathematician. He made significant contributions to biology of behavior with his concept of dualism. Descartes proposed that the mind and body are distinct entities interacting through the pineal gland in the brain. He believed that the body operated mechanistically like a machine, while the mind was responsible for consciousness and rational thought. In his work, The Treatise of Man, Descartes described the nervous system's role in behavior, likening nerves to hydraulic pumps that carried sensory information to the brain and motor commands back to the muscles. Though some aspects of his theories were later disproven, Descartes' mechanistic view of bodily functions influenced subsequent scientific inquiries into the biological basis of behavior. Johann Müller was a German physiologist, and he is renowned for his doctrine of specific nerve energies. Müller posited that different sensory nerves carry specific information to the brain, leading to distinct perceptions. For instance, optic nerves convey visual information, while auditory nerves carry sound information. This concept suggested that the nature of sensation depends on the pathway by which the sensory information reaches the brain, rather than the stimulus itself. Müller's doctrine was pivotal in understanding sensory processing and the specialization of different parts of the nervous system. It paved the way for future research into how the brain interprets sensory information and contributes to behavior. Experimental ablation, a technique involved in deliberate removal or destruction of the brain tissue to study its function, played a crucial role in understanding the biology of behavior. French physiologist Pierre Flourens, who lived between 1794 and 1867, pioneered this method, systematically removing parts of animal brains and observing the resulting behavior changes. Flourens' experiments demonstrated that different brain regions are responsible for specific functions. For instance, he found that removing cerebellum affected coordination and balance, while damage to the medulla oblongata disrupted the vital functions like respiration. These findings provided empirical evidence for localized brain functioning and influenced development of neuropsychology. Hermann von Helmholtz, who lived between 1821 and 1894, was a German physician and physicist. He made groundbreaking contributions to understanding the biological basis of behavior through his research on nerve conditions and the conduction and sensory perceptions of the nerves. Helmholtz measured the speed of nerve impulses, demonstrating that they are not instantaneous but travel at a finite speed. This finding challenged the prevailing notion that nerve signals were transmitted instantaneously and laid the foundation for modern neurophysiology. Helmholtz also made significant strides in sensory physiology. He developed the trichromatic theory of color vision, proposing that the retina contains 3 types of receptors, each sensitive to different wavelengths of light: red, green, blue. This theory explained how the combination of these receptors produced the perception of various colors. Additionally, Helmholtz worked on auditory perception, particularly his resonance theory of hearing, elucidating how the ear and brain interpret sound frequencies. He suggested that the basilar membrane of the cochlea resonates at different locations depending on the frequency of incoming sound waves, allowing for the perception of pitch. The combined contribution of these thinkers and researchers laid the groundwork for modern neuroscience and the study of the biology of behavior. As the 19th and 20th centuries progressed, the field continued to evolve, integrating insight from psychology, biology, and technology. The advent of advanced neuroanatomical techniques such as Golgi staining allowed scientists like Santiago Ramon y Cajal to visualize neurons and their connections, leading to the neuron doctrine, the concept that neurons are the fundamental unit of the brain. This understanding was crucial for exploring how neural networks contribute to behavior. In the early 20th century, behaviorism, led by figures like John B. Watson and B.F. Skinner, focused on observable behaviors and its relationship with the environment, downplaying the role of internal mental states. However, the cognitive revolution in the mid-20th century, spearheaded by researchers like Noam Chomsky and Ulrich Neisser, introduced the importance of internal mental processes, bridging the gap between behavior and biological underpinnings. The late 20th century and early 21st century have seen remarkable advances in technology such as functional magnetic resonance imaging and positron emission tomography, allowing research to study brain activity in real time. These techniques have provided insight into how different brain regions are involved in various cognitive and behavioral functions. Today, the biology of behavior is understood through a multidisciplinary lens, integrating knowledge from genetics, molecular biology, neuroanatomy, and psychology. Researchers explore how genetic factors influence brain development and function, how neurotransmitters and hormones regulate behavior, and how experiences shape neuroplasticity. The field of epigenetics has revealed how environmental factors can influence gene expression, affecting behaviors across an individual's lifespan. This understanding underscores the dynamic interplay between nature and nurture in shaping behavior. Insight into neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to recognize itself in response to injury or experience, have revolutionized approaches to rehabilitation. Techniques such as constrained induced movement therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy leverage the brain's plasticity to promote recovery and improved behavioral outcomes. The theory of evolution, a cornerstone of modern biology, describes the process by which species change over time through mechanisms such as natural selection and genetic mutation. This theory, most famously associated with Charles Darwin, explains how organisms adapt to their environment and how new species arrive. Central to this understanding are concepts such as functionalism, inheritance of traits, natural selection, mutation, and selective advantage. Charles Darwin, who lived between 1809 and 1882, is perhaps the most influential figure in developing the theory of evolution. His seminal work on the origin of species, published in 1859, introduced the concept of natural selection as a primary mechanism driving evolutionary change. Darwin proposed that organisms better adapted to their environment tend to survive and reproduce, passing on advantageous traits to their offspring. Darwin's ideas were revolutionary because they challenged the prevailing view of species as immutable and divinely created. His observations during the voyage of the HMS Beagle, particularly of the diverse species of the Galapagos Islands, provided key evidence for this theory. Darwin noted that species varied from island to island, and these variations seemed well suited to their specific environment, suggesting that species evolve over time through adaptation. Functionalism, a concept emerging from Darwin's ideas, focuses on the purpose and adaptive functions of psychological and behavioral traits. In the context of evolution, functionalism examines how mental processes and behaviors enhance the organism's chances of survival and reproduction. This perspective was foundational in psychology, influencing figures like William James, who emphasized the adaptive nature of the human consciousness and behavior. Functionalism posits that cognitive processes, such as perception, memory, and emotion, evolve because they serve crucial roles in helping organisms navigate their environment. For example, the ability to remember locations of food sources or to recognize potential threats would provide a selective advantage, increasing an individual's likelihood of surviving and reproducing. Central to the theory of evolution is the concept of inherited traits, the process by which traits are passed from parent to offspring. Before Darwin, the mechanism of inheritance were poorly understood. Gregor Mendel's work on pea plants, published in the mid-19th century, revealed the principle of genetic inheritance, although his contributions were not fully recognized until the early 20th century. Mendel discovered that traits are inherited in discrete units, now known as genes. Each organism carries 2 alleles for each trait, one from each parent, and these alleles can be dominant or recessive. This understanding of inheritance provided a genetic basis for Darwin's observation, explaining how advantageous traits could be passed down through generations. Natural selection is the process by which individuals with advantageous traits are more likely to survive and reproduce. Over time, these traits become more common in the population. Natural selection operates on the variations within a population, which arises from the random genetic mutations and recombination during reproduction. Darwin identified several key components of natural selection. First one is variation. Individuals within a population vary in their traits. The second one is inheritance. Traits are inheritable and can be passed from parent to offspring. Differential survival and reproduction. Individuals with traits that confer a survival or reproductive advantage are more likely to pass those traits to the next generation. Accumulation of favorable traits. Over generations, favorable traits accumulate in the population, leading to adaptation to the environment in terms of the population itself. Mutations are changes in the genetic code that can introduce new variations within a population. These changes can be caused by errors during DNA replication, environmental factors, and other mechanisms. Mutations can have various effects. They can be beneficial, harmful, or neutral, depending on the environment and the organism's existing traits. Beneficial mutations provide new traits that may offer a selective advantage. For example, a mutation that improves an organism's ability to digest a particular food source can enhance its survival prospects. Harmful mutations, on the other hand, reduce an organism's fitness, potentially leading to its elimination from the gene pool. Neutral mutations do not significantly affect an organism's fitness, but can contribute to genetic diversity. Selective advantage refers to the increased likelihood that an individual with a certain trait will survive and reproduce in a given environment. Traits like the ones that provide a selective advantage become more prevalent in the population over time through the process of natural selection. Selective advantage can arise from various factors. Physical adaptations, traits that improve physical capabilities such as speed, strength, or camouflage, can enhance survival. For instance, the development of a longer neck in giraffes allows them to access food sources higher in the trees, providing a selective advantage in the environment with tall vegetation. Behavioral adaptations. Behaviors that enhance survival and reproduction, such as cooperative hunting or complex mating rituals, can also provide a selective advantage. Social behaviors in wolves, like pack hunting, increase their efficiency in capturing prey and therefore their survival chances. Physiological adaptations. Adaptations in body functions such as resistance to disease or more efficient metabolism can provide significant advantages. For example, certain populations living in high altitudes have developed physiological adaptations that allow them to efficiently use oxygen in low oxygen environments. The modern synthesis, developed in the early 20th century, integrated Darwin's theory of natural selection with Mendelian genetics, creating a unified framework for understanding evolution. This synthesis incorporated insight from various biological disciplines, including paleontology, systematics, and embryology, to form a cohesive theory of evolutionary change. Key figures in the development of modern synthesis include Ronald Fisher, J.B.S. Haldane, and Sewell Wright, who contributed to the mathematical modeling of evolution and population genetics. In their work, demonstrated how genetic variation within a population is maintained and how it can lead to evolutionary change over time. Research on evolutionary biology continues to uncover new insights into the mechanisms and processes driving evolution. Advances in molecular biology and genomics have revealed the complexity of genetic regulation and the role of epigenetics in inheritance and adaptation. Studies on horizontal gene transfer, particularly in microorganisms, have expanded our understanding of how genetic material can be exchanged between species, contributing to evolutionary change. Evolutionary developmental biology, EVO-DEVO, examines how change in development processes contribute to the evolution of new traits and body plans. By studying the genetics and development pathways that produce specific traits, researchers can better understand how complex structures evolve and diversify. Evolutionary theory is not only a historical and theoretical framework, but also a dynamic process of observable in real time. Examples of evolution in action include the development of antibiotic resistance in bacteria, the rapid change in the coloration and behaviors of guppies in response to predation pressures, and the adaptation of finches in the Galapagos Island to different food sources. These contemporary examples demonstrate the ongoing relevance and applicability of evolutionary principles in understanding biological change and diversity. They also underscore the importance of evolutionary theory in addressing practical challenges, such as managing drug resistance, conserving biodiversity, and predicting the impact of environmental changes on a species. The theory of evolution, from its inception with Charles Darwin to its integration with genetics and ongoing research, provides a comprehensive framework for understanding the diversity of life and the mechanisms driving biological change. Through natural selection, mutation, and selective advantage, organisms adapt to their environment, lead to rich tapestry of life that we observe today. Functionalism, inheritance of traits, and the modern synthesis further enrich this understanding, highlighting the interconnectedness of biological processes and the adaptive functions of traits. Evolutionary biology continues to be a vibrant and essential field, offering insight into the past, present, and future of life on Earth. The history of biology of behavior is a testament to the enduring quest for understanding the intricate relationship between the brain, the body, and behavior. From the philosophical musings of the ancient Greeks to the empirical investigations of Descartes, Mueller, Helmholtz, and others in this field have continually evolved, integrating new knowledge and technologies. By building on this foundational work of these pioneers, contemporary researchers can continually unravel the complexities of behavior, advancing our understanding of the biological processes that drive our actions, thoughts, and emotions. This ongoing journey not only depends on our scientific knowledge, but also holds the promise of improving mental health and well-being through targeted interventions and therapies. The evolution of a human being is a complex and fascinating journey that spans millions of years, involving gradual changes in physical form, cognitive abilities, and cultural practices. This evolutionary path begins with our ancient primate ancestors and continues through several key hominin species, leading to modern Homo sapien. The story of human evolution starts with the divergence from our common ancestor with chimpanzees approximately 6 to 7 million years ago. Early hominins such as Sahelanthropus chidensis and Ardipithecus ramidus display a mix of ape-like and human-like features. These species had relatively small brains but showed adaptations for bipedalism, or walking on two legs, and significant shifts from quadrupedalism movement of other primates. Around 2 to 4 million years ago, the genus Australopithecus emerged. Species like Australopithecus afarensis, best known from the famous Lucy fossil, exhibited more advanced bipedalism and an increase in brain size compared to earlier hominins. These early humans were still relatively small and had long arms suited for climbing, indicating a life that included both terrestrial and arboreal habitats. Genus Homo, which includes modern humans, first appeared around 2.8 million years ago with Homo habilis. This species is often associated with the earliest known use of stone tools, marking a significant technological advancement. Homo erectus appeared around 1.9 million years ago, with the first hominin to have body proportions similar to modern humans and to spread out of Africa into Asia and Europe. Homo erectus exhibited increased brain size and more sophisticated tool use. Modern humans, Homo sapiens, evolved around 300,000 years ago in Africa. They were characterized by large brains, complex language, and advanced tool-making abilities. The development of symbolic thought, art, and culture are hallmarks of Homo sapiens, distinguishing them from earlier hominins. Around 70,000 years ago, Homo sapien began to migrate out of Africa, eventually populating the entire globe. Evolution of human beings is marked by significant milestones in bipedalism, brain size, tool use, and cultural complexity. This evolutionary journey underscores the adaptability and ingenuity of our species, highlighting the intricate interplay between biology and environment in shaping the unique characteristics of modern humans. The evolution of larger brains in humans is a remarkable journey marked by several key adaptations and behaviors that contribute to the unique cognitive abilities. This process involves the combination of anatomical changes, technological advancements, and social developments that collectively lead to a significant expansion of brain size in Homo sapiens. The shift to bipedalism, which began with earlier hominins, like Australopithecus afarensis, played a crucial role in brain evolution. Walking on two legs freed the hands for other functions, such as using and making tools. The use of tools, first seen with Homo habilis around 2.8 million years ago, required and fostered greater cognitive abilities. The ability to create and use tools provided significant survival advantages, enabling early humans to hunt, process food more efficiently, and manipulate their environment in ways that no other species could. To control fire, which is believed to have been mastered by Homo erectus around 1 million years ago, was another critical milestone. Cooking food not only made it more digestible and nutritious, but also reduced the time and energy spent on chewing. This dietary shift likely supported the growth of larger brains by providing a higher caloric intake necessary for maintaining extensive neural networks. Cooked food also reduced the size of the gut, freeing up more energy to support brain development. The development of complex language is another cornerstone in evolution of larger brains. Language enables more effective communication, cooperation, and transmission of knowledge across generations. It facilitated the sharing of information about food sources, danger, and social structures, enhancing group survival. The neurological basis for language likely co-evolved with the expansion of the brain's language centers, such as Broca's and Wernicke's area, which is significantly more developed in humans than in any other primate. As brain size increased, so did the human skull, necessitating change in the birth process. A larger brain requires a larger skull, which in turn requires a wider birth canal in females. This evolutionary challenge led to the adaptation of giving birth to relatively underdeveloped infants, a phenomenon known as neoteny. Human babies are born at a much earlier stage of development compared to other primates, necessitating prolonged parental care and social structures to support the young during their extended period of dependency. Neoteny not only facilitated larger brains, but also contributed to greater cognitive flexibility. Prolonged childhood allows for extended learning and socialization, which are critical for developing complex behaviors and cultural knowledge. This extended developmental period supports the acquisition of language, social norms, and technological skills, all of which are crucial for survival and reproduction in human societies. Human brains are exceptionally large relative to body size. While other animals such as elephants and whales have larger absolute brain sizes, humans have the highest body-to-brain weight ratio among mammals. This high ratio reflects the significant cognitive demands placed on human beings, including problem solving, social interaction, and tool use. The encephalization quotient, which measures brain size relative to body size, is particularly high in humans, underscoring our advanced cognitive abilities. The ability to pass down knowledge through generations is unique to humans, has greatly influenced our brain evolution. This cultural transmission of knowledge, skill, and technologies means that each generation builds on the discoveries and achievements of the previous ones. This cumulative cultural evolution has accelerated technological advancements and societal complexity, further driving the need for larger and more capable brains. Color vision, though not unique to humans, is another factor that plays a role in our evolutionary history. Primates, including humans, have trichromatic vision, which allows them to perceive a wide range of colors. This ability is crucial for identifying ripe fruit, nutritious plants, and other environmental cues important for survival. The enhanced visual processing required for color vision also contributes to the overall demand on the brain. The evolution of larger brains in humans is a multifaceted process influenced by bipedalism, tool use, fire, language, anatomical adaptation, social learning, and the transmission of generational knowledge. Each of these factors played a crucial role in shaping our cognitive abilities and ensuring the survival and success of our species. This evolutionary journey underscores the intricate interplay between biological adaptations, cultural advances in driving human development. That's it for today, guys. I hope we had a good understanding of some of the things that we talked about today. Next week, we're going to be talking about the human nervous system, particularly the two main parts, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The idea of talking about the foundations of neuroscience and particularly the science of behavior, the biological basis of behavior, is to get a foundation of how you work, how your brain works, how things change, and specifically neuroplasticity, and getting an idea, a foundational understanding of how change is possible and how change happens in the brain. So thanks for listening, and I appreciate your time and attention.